Robin Williams. I'm here with John Bennett from Georgia Bikes and Nick Palumbo, Alderman, City of Savannah. And we're out here to do more tactical architectural history. So join us for another episode, this time in Ardsley Park-Chatham Crescent. So here we are in front of 519 East 45th Street in Chatham Crescent. Nick knows something about this house and the extraordinary thing that the current homeowner is doing.
So this house is really special because it's one of the first we've seen in the neighborhood, well, really in my era at least, where someone has deliberately tried to restore the house to its original footprint and the characteristics that once existed, using thorough documentation and research that they've gotten from the Georgia Historical Society and old photographs. So if you're starting on the left side of the house here, these three casement windows were originally, it was just a vinyl arched window that didn't really fit. Somebody had put it into the 1980s. So at great cost and expense, they actually got wood windows to replace them. When you see the front porch here, this was actually enclosed sometime in the 1960s or 70s to enlarge the footprint of the house, to give it a little bit more square footage and make a larger living room. Well, they uncovered that the original footprint had these casement windows that opened up to give it that more storybook and English feel. So they took, at great risk mind you, took this front portion off to try to restore the footprint that once was, and to bring back these little tiny windows that are on the right side of the house here. So I wish that you could have seen the inside of this thing when they got a hold of this. I tell you, I think the termites were holding it together when they started this project, but it's really coming along nicely, and they'll be wrapped up pretty soon. And this is Jill Brower, yes, and the homeowner. This home in particular, when it was found, it was, I would say, a little bit of 1980s going on. We had some
Home Depot windows. So we started what Dan and I have been doing for the past 10 years in Savannah, hacking away at these homes and trying to find
the guts of the heart of the home.
The guts and heart of the house. And I think, and so this one is well on its way. And we have always wanted to apply that knowledge to something that we really wanted to sink our teeth into. So I think that this is that project.
So building on what Nick said, we see with this house, as I mentioned, the enormous hipped roof, probably the largest hipped roof in the whole neighborhood, if not even in the city for a house. It's an incredible hipped roof with a prominent dormer, just a single dormer, up in the center of the roof. But the real showstopper on this house is the chimney. And this chimney, which is really wide at the bottom, has a detail on it that slopes down like massive shingles, but we call these things weatherings. And they date back to the Middle Ages, to Gothic churches that had buttresses, and they would use those slabs of stone to help the water shed off the slope of the chimney. The little windows and the overall asymmetry and kind of randomness of this is a giveaway that this is working within a vernacular tradition. But in the 20th century, what was just sort of organically developed over time becomes its own style. But this one is really a great example of how the building industry in the early 20th century, how builders and architects looked to all sorts of different traditions in the past, not just the formal dressed up versions, but the more casual ones as well that suited the quality of living in the suburbs. That was to be casual, relaxed, as social values were shifting. One of the benefits of spending more time in front of a house is you notice details. So the chimney over here, as we were chatting with the owner, we were noticing, because we were speculating, is this little perimeter wall in the front original? I don't think it is, and I think one of the clues is in the brickwork. Let's go a little closer and take a quick peek at this. And if you look at these bricks, you can see the courses have little bricks, and they're all very random and informal looking, whereas this is very precise. It's a running bond with every brick exactly like the other. And so I think if this were an original feature, the brickwork would have been tying into what you see on the chimney. Also, the way it hits the chimney, it sort of interrupts the grandeur of the chimney itself. Probably not original, but if they could get the architectural plans, that would be even better. And she also mentioned another aspect to talk about is how the roof, they found some shingles. And this is why it's so important to get out and talk to owners and not just be curbside historians, but actually knocking on the door and chatting with an owner can reveal information. They've found some slate shingles, which they suspect were originally on this house. So it's got these charcoal gray asphalt shingles, which are fine. The color's pretty close, but originally slate would have given it an even more English vernacular character.
Probably the best sidewalk down here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Texture-wise.
Okay, so take advantage of the relatively new sidewalk here. So right next door to 521 is 519 East 45th Street, and this is the home of a local contractor who has lovingly restored this house in much the same way that the house we were just visiting has been restored. In fact, that porch on the right also was sealed up and has been liberated by its current owner. So this house is another one of those vernacular cottages that's been amped up into a grander scale. The most prominent feature, of course, it too has this amazingly tall hipped roof, but this one has an extra special detail. And it's one of those architectural terms that's just so much fun to say. It's got a jerkin head on it, a half hip or a clipped gable, but I like to call it a jerkin head, and just because it's so much fun to say. And that is that clipped part up at the top there. And it is not a very common architectural feature here in Savannah, and it reflects the variety. So these two houses may well have been built by the same developer, so the owner at 521 believes. And in fact, there's some clues, like the chimney on this one is very prominent, and the top of both chimneys has these angled bricks. Again, going back to English vernacular models, we can see some of the same little windows that we see on the other house, the same kind of wood clapboarding, but and really a kind of informal plan reflecting that informal lifestyle of the suburbs. So one of the challenges of doing this sidewalk architectural history with these houses is that in terms of their form, so many of them are informal. There may be a term for this specific configuration, but the door there doesn't lead to a center hall. It leads right into the living room, and off to the right, you can see the whole house is studiedly asymmetrical, purposely asymmetrical, with the wonderful open porch to the right, inviting outdoor living in a way that wouldn't happen in the traditional formal house.
We've done a lot of tactical architectural history, but I wanted to talk about another kind of tactical effort that happens. We're on 45th Street, and the posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour, but unfortunately, people use this as a cut-through and drive too fast. So in my line of work, we talk a lot about traffic calming that you could do by widening sidewalks or building raised crosswalks, but the residents here are doing what's called tactical urbanism. They're doing kind of DIY traffic calming with devices like my little friend here. They often close the street for parties and other things. So it's a way that neighbors on their own can do things to slow down traffic and make their street more livable that doesn't cost as much as permanent changes, where it can be used to demonstrate how permanent changes could work and where they're needed. Thank you, friend.
Come back again to see what houses the Tactical Architectural History team visit next time.